Adam Levin is the chairman and founder of Identity Theft 911, also known as IDK 911, and co-founder of Credit.com. His decades of experience, including serving as former director of the New Jersey Division of Consumer Affairs, has given him unique insight into security, consumer privacy, identity theft, fraud legislation, and financial advocacy. He is a nationally recognized expert on identity theft, online security, and credit, and is the author of the new book, Swiped: How to Protect Yourself in a World Full of Scammers, Phishers, and Identity Thieves. Welcome, Adam Levin, to San Francisco.
Thank you very much, Michael. I normally would get up, except for the fact that I think that my life support would pull apart and I would feel like I was in the movie The Martian.
Right.
So therefore, yeah, so we'll just sit here.
Just stay seated.
I will.
And I'll drive. Why don't you begin by giving us an overview of your book and really your life's work?
Well, thank you. And listen, first I want to start by thanking the Commonwealth Club for allowing the both of us to come here and lower your property values. Secondly, I want to thank my friends from Credit.com who are here, and my friends from Stanford, and some of my friends from Berkeley who are in the same room with Stanford, and we can all sit together, and this is progress, actually. So this book is the culmination of probably 30 years of experience and 10 years worth of deep focus in the identity theft area, and then a whole lot of months of actually writing it. And I wanted to do this book because we're living in a new paradigm, and it's very important for each and every one of us to kind of grasp that. And that is that breaches have now become the third certainty in life, behind death and taxes. And if you really think about it, in the past few years, over 1 billion, now think Dr. Evil, pinky to the lips, 1 billion files containing consumer information, personal identifying information, have been exposed to people who had no right to look at them, to get their hands on them, and certainly to abuse that information, which they have in fact done. So we are now sitting in a situation where it is inevitable, and I'm sorry to be Dr. Death on this, but it is inevitable that at some time in our lives, each and every one of us is going to become a victim of some form of identity theft, perhaps multiple forms of identity theft. So the old concept of let's prevent it, that's fantasy. This is something you can't prevent. Because even if you do everything right, and we'll talk about my definition of everything right, your information is going to be on a database, and when the wrong person, who is not an authorized person, gets their hands on that information, and if your social security number happens to be in that file, you will be looking over your shoulder for the rest of your life. So in the book, I talk about what I call the 3 M's, which is minimize your risk of exposure, monitor, and manage the damage. And I'm not going to be like the trailer that is the entire movie. I'm going to save that for our discussion with Michael. But the truth is, at this moment, there's a lot of stuff going on that is really bringing us all home to the concepts of privacy and security. The FBI and Apple, a presidential campaign where, other than everybody wanting to blame China for everything, people are talking about building the Great Wall of Mexico, and it's going to be one heck of a wall with a big fat door. But everyone's talking about building the wall, but no one is focused on the concept of a cyber dome. Now, the reality is we're never going to have an impenetrable cyber dome. But unless we start to move in the direction where cybersecurity is a very serious topic of conversation, and that the government and business and consumers and the media all together understand the fact that this is a collaborative effort. We are all part of this. No one can shirk their responsibility. We're going to be seriously in the crosshairs of some very, very bad people. So with that,
before we start talking about the book, let's talk about current affairs with Apple and FBI. what's at stake here? I mean, it looks simple, security against privacy, and yet I think you're going to tell us it's far from simple.
No, listen, it's a very complicated subject, and one of the things that Tim Cook has said is it would have been a lot better if he didn't get up in the morning and turn on his television and find out that the Federal Bureau of Investigation had launched this motion in an effort to get them to basically hack into an iPhone. Apple did, on a number of occasions, offer assistance to the FBI with as far as they could go. But the real issue here, beyond privacy and security, is the whole concept of encryption. Now, for years, nobody wanted to talk about encryption. Nobody wanted to talk about data segmentation. Nobody wanted to talk about two-factor authentication. And the reason why we're in the mess we're in, and I talk about this stuff in the book, is because of the fact now that all the chickens have come home to roost. And this is an example where the FBI is saying, oh, come on, it's just a phone. Help us get access to this thing. We promise not to tell anybody. We're not going to do anything. We just need to get into this phone. We need to get access to this specific data. We can't get it any other way. And Apple is saying, okay, but how about there's this incident, then there's going to be the law enforcement agency standing behind that one, and the law enforcement agency standing behind that one. And then once all the law enforcement agencies and other agencies have lined up, then all the countries are going to be out there going, well, you did it for the U.S., and, you know, we're China. You got to take care of us here, or we're Russia, or we're Syria, or we're Iran, and the list goes on and on and on. And what he's really concerned about is, look, if you want to do something, this should not be the court trying to impose the will of Congress that hasn't even expressed its will in this situation. They are operating with a law that is 227 years old. It's even older than I am. And the All Writs Act, and there was a decision that just came down yesterday where a judge, I think it was in New York, basically would not allow the government to force Apple to allow them into a phone of a drug dealer by saying that, once again, that I am not persuaded that the All Writs Act is the way you should go. And there was another law passed a few years ago called the, let me get this right, because this is one of those great complicated congressional names, the Communications Assistance to Law Enforcement Agencies Act. And he said, when I took a look at this act, this really wasn't on point either. So you're still asking the court to be Congress. We don't want to be Congress. And Tim Cook said, why don't we just sit down and talk about legislation, but do it the right way and have this involve everybody? But if you're asking us to do something here, it is a very slippery slope, and we are very concerned about the fact that we're jeopardizing privacy. And with all the disclosures about the NSA and all the other things that's going on, we really don't need to go down this road unless this is a clearly defined outcome based on debate in the Congress of the United States.
Is